Okay, today's topic, slope. Talk about slope and how to calculate it. Slope is also applied to and is a form of rate of change. We'll be able to tell by looking at linear graphs to tell whether they're positive, negative, zero, or have an undefined slope. And we'll discuss briefly what the slopes of parallel and or perpendicular lines are. Okay, let's start off with quick discussion of slope. Slope is the change in y over the change in x, also known as rise over run. It's represented by the letter of the lowercase m, and as you probably remember from y equals mx plus b, the slope-intercept form. And to calculate the slope between 2 points, you just plug into this formula. It says y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And as long as you watch your minuses and negatives, you really can't mess this up. But just be careful, and to help you not make that mistake, I always tell people go across and label these x1, y1, x2, y2, and we're going to calculate the slope between these 2 points. Okay, y2 is 4 minus y1 is 8. x2 is negative 2 minus x1 is 3. And to calculate the slope, 4 minus 8 is negative 4. And negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5. And a negative over a negative is a positive. So you have a slope of 4/5 or 4 over 5. Okay, let's try another one now. Just go across, label x1, y1, x2, y2, and plug them back into this formula. Okay, y2 is 4 minus, as part of the formula, y1 is negative 2 over x2 is negative 3 minus 5. Okay, 4 minus negative 2 is the same as 4 plus 2, that's 6, over negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. Now, it doesn't matter if you write the negative on the top, the bottom, or in the middle. If you have one negative, it is negative, and they'll traditionally just stick it in the middle. And 6/8 reduces to 3/4. Okay, so we have a slope, and this one was 4/5. It was a positive slope. And this one had a negative slope of negative 3/4. Now we're going to go ahead and graph those ones from the previous example. Okay, if we plot the point 3, 8, that's over 1, 2, 3 and up 8 would be right there. And if we plot the point negative 2, 4, negative 2 and up 4, so what we're finding is the slope of this line right here. Now you could also count off slope to get from here to here, and remember it's change in y, which is vertical change, over change in x, which is horizontal change. So we'll count this off. We'll go up to there. So we went up 4 to get to that point. So our y change is 4. Then we count across, and we went over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yes, we got 4/5 when we counted off the slope. Going up is positive and going right is positive. And that matches up with what we calculated. Let's try another one. The other one that we calculated, okay, 5, negative 2. Let's see, 3, 4, 5. Negative 2 would be right there. And negative 3, 4. Left 3, up 4. So what we are finding is the slope of this line here. Okay, let's count it off and see what we get. We have to go down. So we're just across from our other dot. So we went down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And when you go down, that is negative 6. Now we'll count right. And we go right 8. And if you go right, it is positive negative 6/4, which reduces to negative 3/4. So whether you count off the 2 points on a graph or calculate them, you get the same result. Now, let's take a look at these with a slightly different sort of line. Let's see. We'll go ahead and calculate these. x1, y1, x2, y2. So on the top we have negative 3 minus negative 3. That's y2 minus y1 over 1 minus 5. Well, remember, minus negative means plus, so negative 3 plus 3 is 0 over negative 4. And anything that is 0 over something has a slope of 0. So, just a quick sketch. If you had plotted these 2 points, 5, negative 3, and 1, negative 3, and drew a line between them, you would have had a horizontal line. This is said to have a slope of 0, like a 0-degree grade. Okay, the other one we'll calculate x1, y1, x2, y2. So we have negative 2 minus 4 over 3 minus 3. Now, whenever you have 0 on the bottom of any fraction, whether it's slope or any other fraction, it is called, as it says down here, undefined. A fraction with a 0 in the denominator, that's the bottom of the fraction, is undefined, and therefore the slope is undefined. And just a real quick sketch. 3, 4 would be approximately there, and 3, negative 2 would approximately be there. And if you had drawn that line, it's straight up and down. That's a vertical line. You could almost think of it as infinite slope. We call it undefined. Okay, now what we learned is, so far, if you have a positive slope, it will rise from left to right, as this one did. It was positive 4/5. If you have a negative slope, it will fall from left to right, as this one did. If you have a slope of 0, that means 0 on the top, then the slope is 0. It's a horizontal line. If you have a 0 on the bottom, that is undefined. That is a vertical line. And 2 points to make, because we're going to be discussing this further. The slopes of parallel lines are the same. If you have the equations of two lines, their slopes will be the same. Now, perpendicular lines are a different situation. The slopes of perpendicular lines are called negative reciprocals. Well, an example just briefly of negative reciprocals, 2/3. The negative reciprocal of that is, well, the reciprocal is 3/2, and negative means change the sign. If it's positive, make it negative. If it's negative, make it positive. If you would have had negative 5/3, the negative reciprocal, well, flip it 3/5. If it's negative, make it positive. And we'll discuss this more in the next section. Okay, that's it for slope.